Hello, it's Jeff Byers. I'm going to take you through the modeling stage of the food can. We're going to create an ultra low poly version of the can, and then we're going to create a high poly version of the can, and then bake the normals and ambient occlusion map. Let's get started. Let's go ahead and go to create polygons, click off interactive creation. Click on the cylinder, go under the channel editor, click on polycylinder and subdivision axes to 12. Go ahead and hit the F key to frame, hit the 5 key. Right click over the object, go to edge. And the first thing I want to do is I want to delete all the edges that we don't need. So go to the top view and marquee select that edge. Hold down the shift key, marquee select that edge. Marquee select this edge. And just go every other edge. Hit the delete key. And as you can see, that allows us to have four-sided polygons. Now we do have a object limitation of 40 faces, so this actually is kind of faceted. We can actually go a little higher, so let's go ahead and go back. Put those divisions back in. So Control Z, go back to polycylinder, and let's bring this up to 14. This has us over the poly budget of 40, so we can go to the top view, and we will go ahead and select every other edge. So I'm going to go ahead and marquee select every other edge. Okay, like that, and hit the delete key. Again, this gives us a four-sided polygon, so we're working in quads. Okay, and what we want to do here is we want to go in and smooth. Let's go to select mode, click off of it, and make sure it's smooth. Okay, that looks pretty good. We're going to go ahead and move this up. Hit the snap to grid, hit the W key and move it up. And when you move it up, we're going to go ahead and move those vertices down. Just make sure snap to grid is still on. Right click and select vertices and marquee select the vertices on the bottom and just bring that down so it snaps to the bottom. Click off the grid snap, right click and go into select mode. And go to, I'm going to pivot, make that pivot centered. So go to modify center pivot. Go back to the perspective view and there's our can. That is our low poly is finished. Let's go ahead and in the channel box editor, if you don't see this and you're in the attribute editor, just go Control A. That will go back into your attribute editor or your channel editor. Alright, so under channel editor, double click on that and call that food can. Just type in food _ can and hit enter. Okay, we want to put this in a layer, so click on this icon right here, create new layer and assign new kind selected object. So click on that, double click on the layer 1, rename that food _ can _ low. There we go. So we're going to go ahead and save that. Okay, let's go ahead and Leave that the way it is, and we're going to template that. So T. Alright, we're going to create another can here. There we go. And we are going to do the same thing. We're going to go at 12 sections. Excuse me, 14 sections. Okay. And we want two subdivisions on the height to be 3. And the caps we want to be at 2. There we go. Top and bottom. Okay. Alright, let's go ahead and select edge, and let's go ahead and move this up to kind of fit exactly where the high poly is. So let's go ahead and click on grid snap, or excuse me, low poly. And let's go ahead and select vertex like we did the other one. Make sure grid snap is on and move that down so it hits the bottom. So now these guys are occupying the same space. Now we're going to work on the high poly food can. So double click on this edge here, move it down. Make sure you turn grid snap off. Move that down. Okay, we're going to make that edge, can edge. And we're going to go ahead and double click on this guy, double click on the edge, and move that up. Okay, every can has a little lip, so we're going to go ahead and work on that. Alright, so we're going to double click on this guy here, and we're going to hit the R key and expand that out like that. Double click on this edge and expand that out. Go to the top view and make sure that they are exactly the same. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit, scale that up so the bottom is pretty close to the top. There we go. Alright, the next step, we're going to go ahead into face mode and click on this edge and double click on this edge. And we are going to extrude that out. So go to Edit Mesh, Extrude, go into the option box, Edit, Reset Settings, and Extrude. We're going to pull that out. Okay. We're going to exaggerate just a little bit. Okay, that looks pretty good. And we'll go to the bottom and do the same thing. Now we could have done them both at the same time, so let's go ahead and do that. Let's go ahead and Control-Z back. Okay, click on this guy right here, Shift select, double click on this one, and let's go and hold the Shift key down, click on this one, double click on this one. Okay, and let's go to the top, and let's go to Edit Mesh, and go into the Extrude option, reset it, and extrude. Zoom out a little bit, and we'll just click on the blue arrow. Move that out just a little bit like that. There we go. Alright. Right click, go to select. Now we're going to do the inside of the can. Okay. So we are going to select these faces right here on the top. I usually like to use the brush tool. Scale that down holding down the B key. Okay, so now I can go ahead and select these, hold the Shift key down, select all those on top. And we want to do the bottom as well. So I'm going to hold down the Shift key and select the bottom. This is much faster than just trying to click on them. Make sure you don't select anything around the can object itself. Alright, we're going to go in here and Go into Edit Mesh and Extrude. And hit the Extrude key, and we're going to go down to the bottom. Looks like it remembered what we're doing here. So I'm going to go to the bottom, we're going to click on the arrow, move that in a little bit like that. Get the top of the can, like that. Alright, some cans have little ridges on top. I'm going to show you how to do those. So you may have a can that has ridges on top, and might even have some words on top. We can recreate those. We're not going to recreate those in Maya. But we're going to, I'm going to show you a way to create a normal map to add little writing and that kind of thing, those kinds of things that on the top, have them push in and push out. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and hit the G key, and we're going to hit the R key, and we're going to go and scale this. Now, because we're doing the top and bottom at the same time, it's going to be very difficult to do that because it wants to scale down. Okay? So what we're going to have to do is we're going to go back. Okay. Control Z back. And we're going to do one top at a time. So I'm going to go in here. Select this. Make sure I don't select anything around the edges. Go to Edit Mesh and Extrude. So we're just going to worry about the top piece here. Make sure nothing else is selected. That can be really bad if you select something you don't look and make sure. So we're going to push this down, hit the W key, push that down. It's going to give us that rim. Okay, there we go. And hit the G key again, scale. Scale that in. There we go. And some cans have these little ridges, so we're going to kind of recreate that. Hit the G key, and we are going to scale that in just a little bit and move that down. Hit the W key. Move that down just a little bit. Hit the G key, scale it. R key, move it in. And move it up just a little bit. Here we go. So I'm going to get those indents in there. So I'm just slowly kind of moving them, and I'm going to kind of show you what I'm doing here. Okay. Go to the side view and take a look at what we got going on here. Okay, looks pretty good. Alright, so I'm going to hit the G key again and hit the R key. Rotate that in. I'm going to do one more. Okay, hit the G key, R key. Okay, and then we're going to move that down a little bit, like that. Hit the G key, R key, scale. Move it up a little bit. There we go. Okay. So some cans have ridges on top, and this is how you can create ridges. So let's go in here, and you can see that we've got some ridges on there. Okay. Alright. So you can do the same thing for the bottom of the can. I'm not going to really worry too much about the bottom of the can. I'm going to really concentrate on the top of the can. So what we want to do is we want to now add edge loops to this object that's going to be high poly. But before we do that, let's go ahead and go to Edit, Delete by Type History, and modify Freeze Transformations. I'm going to turn off the food can template. There we go. Just turn it off. Hit to make sure the V key's not on. And I am going to add edge loops. If I hit the 3 key, let's hit the 3 key, you notice that just everything falls apart. Okay. I like how that looks, though. That's kind of cool. So you can see those ridges that you would sometimes see in a can. But I don't like how this is falling apart here. Okay, so hit the 1 key again. I'm going to go into selection mode. And now I'm going to add all these edge loops that will help support the main edge loops. So I'm going to go into Edit Mesh and go to Insert Edge Loop Tool. And I'm going to go in here and start adding edge loops. Add an edge loop really close to this edge here. And I'm going to add an edge loop up in this area here. And one right here. Rotate down a little bit. Add an edge loop right here. Edge loop right here. I'm right on the lip here. I'm going to add an edge loop right here. And here. 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 And here. Okay. Let me go back and add another edge loop right here. There we go. So that's going to help solidify and help support all those edges. So that will be really nice looking when I get done. I'm going to do the same thing all the way down to the bottom. This takes some time and getting used to, so I went to an edge right here. Remember, we're putting those edge loops pretty close, so I'm going to go Control Z back, get pretty close to this edge. Okay, we don't want it on top of it, we want it just pretty close to it. And then we want an edge loop right here, edge loop here, here, here. Let's work on the bottom, even though we probably won't ever see this. Here, here, and I don't think we did much to the bottom, so we'll leave that the way it is. Okay. Alright, so let's take a look now. Go to selection. Looks like I got some highlighted. If that ever happens to you, go back to edge, just select a bunch of edges and click off. There we go. Now we can go in here and hit the 3 key. And let's take a look at our model now. Go to selection mode, click off of it, and there you go. You have a very nice high poly object here. Nice tight edge on the can top. And you got some ridges on top of the can. Now, notice that I really don't like where the ridges are, so let's hit the 1 key. And let's go ahead and double click on these, and it's easy to scale these up. So I'm going to double click on this, double click on this one, and double click on this one. So I got these 3 edge loops there. Make sure I don't have anything else selected. I can go ahead and scale these up like that, which is really great. Real easy. Do the same thing with these guys here. And scale these all together. Here we go. That's great, like that. Go to selection mode. Click on this. Make sure in object mode and hit the 3 key. Let's take a look at them again. There we go. Now, it might be a little bit too close here, so I'm going to bring them, I brought them in a little bit too far. So let's go back. And we're just tweaking things out here. Hit the 1 key again. And let's kind of tweak these out again. I went too far. Hit the Q key and just kind of double click on these edges again. Let's bring these in a little bit. I went too far. Bring those in right about there. Let's take these, bring these in a little bit. So they're the same distance here and here. There we go. That, I think, will work great. Okay, so hit the 3 key. Alright, let's take a look at the top. And there we go. Now, if we wanted those edge loops to be a lot more defined, to see those creases, we can surely do that if we want to, since that's the top of the can. We got the edges defined, well defined on this object here. So those will pull really nice. Hit the 1 key, make sure I got all those edge loops in there. Yep, I do. Looks like I do. Alright, so if we want to, and we're just going to experiment here, so if I want to show this to be a little tighter edge, I can definitely do that by going into Insert Edge Loop. But before I do that, I want to save my scene. So I'm going to save my scene as... Oh, I need to set my scene. Let me set my scene. Always set your project. Let's see here, dice. Okay. Let's save my scene. And we're going to call this food can. Always save your work before you do something crazy like this, so I'm going to go ahead and add some edge loops. If I don't like it and Maya crashes or something, I won't lose everything. So insert edge loop, and let's go ahead and insert edge loop here and here. And let's take a look at what that does when we hit the 3 key. So I'm going to go to select and hit the 3 key. Let's take a look at what it looks like. See how that defines that edge in the top. We kind of get away from that puffy look, which I kind of liked. I kind of like that puffy look. So let's go back and go back to 1, and let's delete that. So let's go Control Z until we get rid of those edges. There we go. Let's try to make a couple edges inside and see if that makes a difference. So let's go ahead and do Edit Mesh and go Insert Edge Loop, and let's go ahead and create an edge right close to that. This edge here and this edge here, and let's see if we can define that a little bit more. Let's see how that looks. Hit the 3 key. Okay. I definitely defined it. Okay, that might be almost too much. Hit the 1 key again. So we're kind of on the right track. We could, if we want to define more, we could click on this one, and this one, and push those both down a little bit more. That would also define that a little bit more. Hit the 3 key. There we go. And that does define it a little bit more. I kind of like how it looks. Kind of like that. Okay, so that's basically our high poly can. If you wanted to, you could hit the 1 key. You could take this top part and take this and separate or extract it from the top and duplicate it and put it in on the bottom here if you wanted to. That way you don't have to go to all this work doing the bottom of the can. But since we're never going to see the bottom of the can, I'm not really too worried about that. Okay, unless the can gets knocked over or something. So here's the high poly, and we want to now duplicate this. So let's go ahead and do a couple things. We've got a lot of history on here. Let's go to Edit, Delete by Type History, Modify, Freeze Transformations, and we want to modify Center Pivot. There we go. We want to do a Control D that duplicates. Let's go in here and click on this guy right here. Create a new layer, and with selected objects, click on that. Double click on this guy right here. This will be called medium poly. Click Save. Click on the V key. Now we're going to click on this again, and we're going to create a very high polygon version of this. So we're going to go to Mesh, Smooth, and we're going to do division levels at 2, and click Smooth. There we go. So there's our high poly can. And that looks pretty good. We're going to pull the normal map from this high poly can and place it on the low poly. So let's go ahead and click on this guy right here. Click on the new layer. Call this high poly. And save it. Alright, so we want to go ahead and edit, delete by type history on the high poly can. And I think we're good. Let's rename this high poly. And let's open up the low poly. It's called food can. Alright, so let's go ahead and save this out as an OBJ. So file, save scene as, call this food can low poly. And we want to save that. Oh, we need to save this as an OBJ. So we need to export selection. Okay, so make sure OBJ. If you don't see this, you'll have to go into your plugin manager and open that up. So you can do that by going in here, Windows, Settings, Preferences, Plugin Manager. Scroll down, and it should be OBJ export, MLL. Click on Load and Load it, Auto Load. Refresh and close. Go to File. Make sure the object's selected. File, Export Selection, and go to OBJ at the bottom. Scroll down, click Export Selection, and we're going to do food can low poly. Export selection. And then we're going to click that off and go to the high poly and go to File, Export Selection, and go click on the food can low poly and just highlight the low and type in high. Click Export Selection. Okay. We also want to, yeah, we got like 7,728 polygons, which is awesome. We could go higher, but that would be kind of ridiculous. Let's go in here to go and save the scene. And food can, call this Finish, F-I-N. There we go. Alright, one last thing is, we forgot to do one thing, which is, huge. We need to unwrap this food can. So let's go into create UVs and do automatic mapping on the can. Just reset and project. And let's go into Windows and UV Texture Editor. And let's go ahead and pull the UV shells out. This shouldn't take too long. I'm just hitting G key now. Move these out of the way. Not sure where these are, where I'm going to place these, but we'll just look and take them one by one. Move them out over here. edges away from each other. There we go. Hit the G key. It looks like, let's take a look at the edges here and see where the edges. Okay. Let's see where the back of the can is. This is important too, so I'm gonna find out where the back of the can is. So this is the front of the can. So I want that edge right here. So let's take a look and see where that is, see if we're getting close to it. That's the back of the can. So if we go right here. So if I select all these guys, if I go to face mode, select all these guys, go minimize this, it selects everything, all the faces on this. Let's go ahead and go to Cylindrical Mapping. I'll show you how that works. Click on the option box, edit, reset settings, project, and there we go. And what we want to do is we want to go ahead and open up the UV texture editor, and let's go ahead and select the UVs. That combines everything together, which is kind of nice. Our seam will be right here, so let's go ahead and move that out of the way. Let's actually go ahead and scale it. Scale it down and fit it in perfectly down here. And this is pretty easy to do. Go ahead and scale it up a little bit. Here we go. And you're going to zoom in really closely to see that you don't go out. And I'm going out a little bit, so I'm going to scale that in a little bit. Not too much. And move it down a little bit. You want to keep within the UV lines. There we go. That looks good. And let's pop these guys in. Now let's see where the edge is on this thing. So we're going to click on that edge here. That's my seam. Where's that seam at? Just so happens it's in the back, which is great. So now I got the seam in the back, which is fine. We can have the seam in the back. And we're going to place these guys, go to UVs, and we're going to select these guys, move these in, and let's scale them up as big as we can to fill up the UV space. Click on this guy here. Oops. And scale him up. Move him around a little bit. Okay, there we go. Alright. So we used the UV texture space the best we can. Let's go in here and make sure we go into selection mode. If you're not in selection mode, you won't be able to save the UVs out. Go to polygons, UV snapshot. And we're doing 1024. Let's go ahead and browse this guy. It's going where I want it to go. In the images, we could ask and save it to source images. And that's what we want to do. We want to type in food can UV underscore texture TX. That's what we're going to bring into Photoshop and paint and apply the base material. Click on save. And click on OK. Alright. And let's go ahead and save this out. So we need to go ahead and export this again. Export selection. We'll just overwrite the food can low. I forgot to put the UV map or UV texture map, the low poly, so now we got to resave it, which is no big deal. So we'll save it, and you want to replace it? Yes. Alright, that's it for now. We're going to bring this into UV map into Photoshop and do exactly what we did with the dice. And I'll see you next time.